It's a series aimed at conjuring up discussion on issues related to humans and their use of technology, all housed under the name Brave Conversations. Let's talk about it with Director of Interstitia. She's going to tell me it's wrong and tell me what it is. Annie Rowland Campbell, and Executive Director of the Broadcasting Commission of Jamaica, Cordell Green. Morning, guys.
Morning.
Good morning.
Annie,
You got it right, actually.
I did.
Yes.
No, Annie's looking at me.
Interstitia, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
you did
cool.
very well. You pronounced it perfectly.
Cool.
About the first person who ever
Brave
heard.
Conversations, Annie. Why are they brave?
Well, we're hoping they're brave.
Yeah.
And the reason that we've done this is that there's a whole need to have conversations in society around the role of technology. Not just because it's new. Humans have always had technology. We are our technology. But the speed and the reach of the technologies we now have is running faster than the humans can actually have the conversations about. So part of what we're trying to do is create an environment where people from all generations come together and actually say, what is it about being human that we quite like? And how, as we're using these technologies, is it impacting the way we're living our lives?
Yeah. Cordell, she's so right. I mean, all the time I say I don't think we were prepared
No.
for social media.
I think that's the...
And the cart's gone and we're trotting behind it.
That's the problem, Daly. I think overnight we have all become stars. You know, everybody's a celebrity if you have a Facebook page. Who prepared us for that? I mean, stars of people advising them.
Yeah.
And they make so many errors. Regular people, we have become empowered. We are going through a revolution, and it's hard when there's when you're in a revolution. Sometimes you're not recognizing that you are.
Yeah.
But the problems we're having now, that's really the tip of the iceberg. We're not yet really very deep into artificial intelligence and robotics and nanotechnology and all the other technologies that are going to completely transform the world in which we live. And we're really not talking about decades.
Yeah. What's a challenge for you? Because I mean, the Broadcasting Commission has a mandate to kind of guide and control what we see, what we hear, how it's framed. But with technology,
control is out the window.
It's out the window.
Yes, it's a very different world now. And we have to think less about command and control.
Yeah.
And really go back to how we were meant to operate as a community and a society, which is to have discussions and have some consensus on what our values are, what we understand ethics to mean, and what we expect of our institutions and our leaders, and what are our roles and responsibilities.
Yeah.
So we are very much focused on digital literacy. You would see that in the work that we are undertaking, talking to people about their digital footprints, because they're not thinking about this.
No.
One of the ads we're running on television now is showing some very bright children, worked very hard, got accepted into Harvard, one of the top universities in the world, and then got Harvard reject them because they were on Facebook, where they thought they were having conversations among themselves.
Right.
Posting awful things, and then got a letter from Harvard saying, we're very sorry, we don't want you to come to our university. There are people who are on the streets, they have something in their hand, it's a phone. People tell them, look, the current currency, what makes you valuable is how many people you have following you, how many people repost what you post. So you come up on an accident, there's somebody dead, decapitated,
or needing help.
Needing help, but what's important at the moment is to capture that and say, look at how mashed up Cordell is.
Yeah.
You're not thinking about, people are not setting out to be malicious or to be harmful. But when you then stop to think about the horrendous impact that is having on families and how it's destroying society, you see the need for not just conversations, but brave conversations.
It's interesting because
Yeah.
I'm listening to you and you know, technology doesn't have emotional intelligence. And it sounds to me like it's robbing us of our emotional.
Well, there are some
intelligence.
transhumanists who are challenging
Think
even
that
that
it has-
argument
wow,
about technology not having emotional
Wow,
intelligence.
wow.
That's part of the brave
Conversation.
conversation. Are intelligent machines going to have rights?
Annie, I want to bring you in here.
I just want, just a couple of things. I think Cordell's given such a great frame of it. There are just a couple of bits. And firstly, you know, the idea of a revolution, as we saw in the Arab Spring. The individuals thought that they had the power, but once the forces, whoever they are, whether it's governments or large corporations, manoeuvre back, it's the people who control and own the technology who have the power. Right. And that links to your point that you just made then around machines not having emotional intelligence. The reality of it is every single bit of technology you use was created by a human being.
Right.
And the values that they have are encoded in that machine.
Okay.
So if you work for Facebook, for example, Facebook's values are break things, go faster, you know, and basically make lots of money. So if you work for Facebook and you're a coder, then you will adhere to Facebook's values in what you do because that's what you're paid to do. Those values, however, and we've seen this recently, may completely conflict with your personal values. Or we might be getting to a point in society where people don't know what their values are. And we've now got to the point. So as Cordell said, I remember in Brisbane in Australia, with the very first instance we had was with the floods. People were posting pictures of bridges so that they could tell the emergency services they were down. But meanwhile, they're posting videos of people drowning. And so obviously in theory there was a double-edged sword. Partly they were trying to help the emergency services, but partly they were. And this then cuts into the notion of who actually owns this data.
Who owns it? And one of the brave conversations we have to have is how do countries with the technology determine what happens elsewhere?
Well, it's not countries, it's companies.
Yeah.
So this is the thing now that
very important.
So what's really interesting about
so
this
this
is
Russian conversation is
look, to me, the Russian conversation is an interesting one. The Russians are in there to make money, right? So all the stuff they did during the US election, if you look at the research, it's all they want is hits. So if they put up there that Hillary does something and that get lots of hits, then they click through and they get lots of money. When it comes to did they try and deliberately manipulate the election? No, I don't think they did. They just wanted to make the money. But the difference you've now got is you've got this experiment which has been run. And I don't know if you've read any Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but I recommend for everybody read lots of science fiction because science fiction is now science fact.
Yes.
But Douglas Adams wrote Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and in Hitchhikers, the white mice were actually running the experiments on the humans. The humans actually thought they were in control,
running
but
the
it was the
experiments
mice.
on the mice.
And what they were doing was they were basically running this big experiment to get the answer to life, the universe, and everything. So in a lot of ways, you can say that the white mice have been running the first experiment of the World Wide Web. And the humans are all on there and we're running on the wheel and we're feeding the machine. Now there's a new experiment coming out where you've actually got America, which has got no laws really around protection of personal data and privacy, although California has just enacted some legislation around the individual's rights to actually, you cannot own your data. It's a bit like you don't own that cup of tea. Somebody owns this mug. You might have the data in it. So it's whoever owns the container owns the data. But you don't have a right to that data in America to a large extent. Europe has now enacted the General Data Protection Regulation, which is all about the fact that you can actually request your data. You can understand. The Russians are all over the shop. And of course the Chinese have actually got a system now where the Chinese government is collecting data on all of their citizens, including whether you go to the gym, whether you visit your mother in an old lady's home, whether you're good to people on the streets, what your credit record is, and they are denying people services based on what their social score is.
Wow.
So there are these experiments now in the world which are running, and they're all being controlled either by a large government or by the companies that put those values in.
And by the way, the other thing is that we each also have a score. for marketers.
Yeah, yeah,
Once
yeah.
you've bought anything
Absolutely.
online,
Yeah.
there's somebody there who's rating all of us.
Yeah.
I told someone the other day that I tried an experiment and went looking for a car, and all I found were the cheap ones, and I started getting very worried and wondering, so what's my
What data
score?
do they have on you?
I have a lot of work. I'm getting very worried.
Oh no! So tell me, Carter, because we have to go. Are we having this brave conversation here in Jamaica?
Yes, we're doing a pilot tomorrow and the next day. Then we're going to have the rail conversation in November.
Okay.
And Jamaica is on the cutting edge, by the way. This
Yeah.
is it's
The fourth one.
Australia, London,
Dubai.
Dubai. And after Jamaica, I think it will be Germany.
We're looking at Oman, then we're looking at Berlin, Barcelona, Brussels.
Yes.
Nice.
So if it's egg,
Wear the red.
yes.
We'll tell you about it and what that means.
Okay.
By the way,
That's the
if
joke.
there are persons who
Yes.
want to participate in November,
Yes.
they can contact the Broadcasting Commission, info@broadcom.org. And we want persons from across the generations, grandmothers right down, and you don't have to know anything about technology. Everybody will have to participate in this
In
conversation.
In fact, we deliberately want people who don't know about technology.
Nice. We need to talk, guys. We need to have some brave conversations. The world around us is changing. So make sure you participate. Director of Interstatia, Annie Rowland Campbell, and Executive Director of the Broadcasting Commission of Jamaica, Cordell Green. Stay with us.